But first, a secret love affair packed with violence became a deadly combination, leading to the murder of a 25-year-old man.
Now the woman who did the crime learns she'll be serving time in prison. Eyewitness News reporter Adi Guajardo joins us live at the Bexar County Justice Center with details. Adi?
It was an emotional roller coaster in the courtroom today as the jury found Andira Abdelaziz guilty for the murder of her nephew. The jury sentencing her to 2 years in prison, bringing both sides of the family to tears.
In 2016, Andira Abdelaziz stabbed and killed her nephew and lover, 25-year-old Mohammed Abdelaziz. She claimed self-defense. The jury, though, said it was murder.
Andira Abdelaziz, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder as charged in the indictment.
The defendant's friends and family took the stand during the sentencing. Her son and daughter pleading with the jury in tears.
She doesn't deserve this. She deserves to see her kids grow up.
He was crazy. He was on drugs.
During the sentencing closing arguments, the defense argued that Andira was the victim of verbal and physical abuse at the hands of her nephew.
And I truly and firmly believe if she hadn't reacted as she did, the state would have been prosecuting Mohammed Abdelaziz for her murder. That's what would have happened if she did not react with the instinct to survive.
Mohammed's attorney argued that Andira brutally tore apart the family, painting him as a scholar, a brother, and an uncle.
All they're left with is the message that you sent. That's what they have. Can't hold him anymore. Can't touch him.
Less than 4 hours after the guilty verdict, the jury handed down a 2-year prison sentence.
I think the verdict sends a horrible message to the women of our community who are being brutalized by monsters. I think the verdict was heartless.
My mom trusted you to take care of her. And justice be served. God is the greatest.
And that last person you just heard about was the brother of the victim. I did reach out to their attorney. They say that the family is at peace with this sentence and they feel justice has been served. Right now, it's unclear if Andira will be filing an appeal. Reporting from the courthouse, Adi Guajardo, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.